What's going on, everybody? In this video, I want to talk about Bitcoin. I also want to talk about Cleanspark and some news that flew under the radar. Some of you might have caught this news, but I totally missed it. I want to talk about it. It is some good news. We also have Cleanspark approaching earnings. We're going to talk about that as well. And we have Grayscale's GBTC and BlackRock's IBIT now within 2 billion from each other. I do think the market will react to a flip. We will soon see the large fund that is known for selling being flipped by the fund that's known for buying. I do think this will bring a huge positive reaction to the market. Now let's get started. If you guys get anything useful out of this video, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Check out the links down below for some free stocks and cryptos. And let's start off with Bitcoin. Now looking at Bitcoin, it seems like we're finding resistance off of the 50 MA. And I drew a few blue lines. These are resistance levels. This is also a level, this bottom one here is also a level where we kind of fluctuate like a rubber band around it. If we're under it, we continue to fall. If we're over it, we run for a little while to the next level of resistance. Basically, if it's above this line, we're likely to head to our next resistance. If it's below this line, we're likely to head to our next support. Now, I want to show you on the 4 hour that Bitcoin found resistance on its 200 MA. It was rejected off the 200 MA, and now it's testing the 50 MA as a support. This is why I show you guys these moving averages. Bitcoin does react to them. I'll show you many good examples. We found a resistance on the 50 MA before breaking out and seeing an accelerated run. We tried to hold the 50 MA but was rejected, and we saw an accelerated drop and continued as we dropped through the 200 MA. Once we built up enough momentum, after finding rejection on the 50 MA, we did break out and see an accelerated run. We also found support on both the 50 and the 200 MA, and we saw a reaction on the break of both moving averages. And my point is, watch these moving averages. The market does react. If we see a break of one, a failure of one, we are going to head to lower levels. If we break the upside on them, typically you continue upwards. Now I want to show you Bitcoin on the long term, what it did at every halving, how overbought it went on the weekly, on the monthly. Look at the past 3 halving cycles, how overbought we went, how euphoric and greedy we were. We are nowhere near that point. The bull market has not yet peaked. When we go over to the weekly, you'll see that we were quite overbought for a period. We are now just hovering at that overbought. In the past, Bitcoin has flirted going from overbought down to towards neutral, back to overbought, down towards neutral, back to overbought. And it did this throughout its whole bull market back in the 2016 halving cycle. In the 2020 halving cycle, it wasn't the same with that choppiness on the RSI near overbought. However, we did see a much more overbought RSI where it kind of spiked. It was a quick spike. It was less of a sustained rally. This was more of a just extreme run, extreme pump. And what I'd prefer to see this halving cycle is more of this just choppy action, flirting with extreme overbought and neutral on the RSI. I do believe Bitcoin has a lot more room to run this cycle. Right now, all we're facing is a break over this 50 MA. And after that break of the 50 MA, Bitcoin only needs about an 8% move upwards to see new all-time highs. Seeing new all-time highs will get things rolling again, and we may head towards 80,000. But it's a matter of seeing those all-time highs, breaking that 50 MA. Now, going over Cleanspark, we did have some news that came out a little over a week ago. I haven't talked about it yet. I just noticed this yesterday, but check it out. Cleanspark exceeds the 17 exahash currently. They also exercised and upgraded their previously announced option for 100,000 Bitcoin mining machines. This update is basically now they can buy the S21 Pros rather than the S21s. These are a more efficient machine, and this does increase their hash rate without purchasing more machines from this contract. It's the same amount of machines, but a different model of Bitcoin miner. This increases their total purchased hash rate by 17% to 23.4 exahash. This is basically another 3.4 exahash of hash rate just by now being able to use these more efficient machines. And as said by Zach Bradford, the CEO, efficiency is the most important variable as we head into the halving. Yes, this was posted before the halving. With the upgrade to the new S21 Pro, we expect that we have cemented our lead as the most efficient publicly traded Bitcoin miner at scale in North America. Our extraordinary scale has allowed us to make meaningful gains in our Bitcoin production without having to increase the energy use of our data centers. This is good not only for Cleanspark and our shareholders, but for the entire Bitcoin network. After the halving, many old and inefficient machines will go offline, increasing Cleanspark's organic market share while lowering the network's energy consumption. We are well suited to take advantage of the opportunities that the halving affords and looking forward to continuing our unmatched growth. I couldn't be happier with Cleanspark. To me, this is definitely the time to be in the Bitcoin miners. Many are expecting upcoming profitability. Last halving cycle, we didn't see any profitability until very, very late into the cycle, if at all. And this time around, we have a lot of Bitcoin miners expecting a profitable quarter before the halving even hit. Some of these miners saw a profitable quarter when Bitcoin was in a $40,000 average range. Cleanspark does have an interesting pattern setting up, a broadening pattern that it did last cycle as well. You'll see back in 2020 and 2021, we went on this huge broadening pattern, found resistance here, found resistance again, and then the bear market started once we broke structure and headed down to new recent lows. Looking at Cleanspark here, it looks like history is repeating itself. We're continuing this upward broadening pattern. I expect this upward broadening pattern to continue over the next 6 months or so at the very least, and I expect us to continue to maintain this support line here. Cleanspark's looking really good. We're now over the 50 MA. We've been over the 200 MA. They're both pointing up. They're both in the correct order. I would keep an eye on this little trend here. We're currently in an uptrend. Keep an eye on this structure. Keep an eye on this support, ascending support. If we break this, we might create a new direction, potentially head down, test some lower levels. But right now, things are looking good for Cleanspark. We have potential to test our previous highs. If we can break $25, Cleanspark's going to rally possibly to 30. And a run towards 30 would bring us at resistance on this upper trend line. Cleanspark's earnings is coming up only a little over a week away. It should be pretty big. A lot of miners are reporting earnings coming up in May. A lot of miners are expecting profitability. This could be the next catalyst that brings the Bitcoin miners up as a whole. If many of them are posting profitability, it might bring a little bit of a positive optimism to the space. People might feel more optimistic about other Bitcoin miners as well. So these Bitcoin miners posting profitable quarters, in my opinion, is overall going to help the whole space. It's going to lift all the boats, so to speak. And this is the first quarter that Cleanspark is going to be over 100 million in revenue if they hit their targets. And one thing to realize is last halving cycle, they reported one profitable quarter. This was at the very end of the Bitcoin bull cycle. This was when Bitcoin was already tanking, earnings is going over previous months. For instance, this upcoming earnings in May is going over January, February, and March. I do expect this halving cycle, I've said this before, I expect a lot of the Bitcoin miners to actually post profitable quarters. I do think this is going to be a really good halving cycle for the Bitcoin miners. So far, things are looking great. I think it's a matter of time until Cleanspark breaks its previous yearly highs. And before we know it, I do believe we'll see the 30s for Cleanspark. Another upcoming catalyst that's going to be big for Bitcoin, I mentioned it earlier in the video, is BlackRock's IBIT finally flipping Grayscale's GBTC. GBTC is the ETF that's known for selling, and it's the largest right now. BlackRock is the ETF that's known for inflows. They've had a long streak. They're in the top 10 in terms of ETF inflow streaks per day. And soon BlackRock's IBIT will pass Grayscale's GBTC. It will be a huge positive for the market. We will finally see the large fund that's known for selling to be passed by the also large fund that's known for buying. But where they stand right now, Grayscale has 20,185 million in assets under management, and BlackRock's IBIT has 18.2 billion in assets under management. They are now under 2 billion away from flipping. In a matter of time, they're only going to be 1 billion away, and then soon they are going to flip. We are going to see this relatively soon. I do think this will be a huge positive for Bitcoin. I know it's a red day today for the most part for the Bitcoin miners, but tell me how you're feeling today. Do you think this uptrend that we've recently seen is going to continue, or are we going to head back to recent lows? I personally would welcome some little pullbacks. I wouldn't mind a few last second buying opportunities. I do think we're getting towards the end of being buyers, and soon it is time to simply hold, then soon after becoming sellers. But let me know your strategy. Is your strategy more price target based? Is your strategy more halving cycle based? Let me know what you're picking up down below. I love to hear from you guys. Thanks as always, and I'll see you next time.